been a part of, I guess. And so when I bring in some of my friends that were tier one kind of black side guys for many years, and I know they walked in the Lord during those careers. Now, of course, having a conversation with them about being a warrior for God is a very different point of view, where they have delivered a lot of death in their careers and gone home to the Bible. That probably after that mission or that op, kind of thing. And so to engage them in these conversations about what a warrior is, of course, mostly across the board, they're all like, first of all, most people don't really understand what a warrior is as far as like when it comes to violence. And so it's in our culture, it's very glorified to be associated with warriorship. And probably 99% of men on the planet don't really have a clue anymore about what being a warrior really is, in the sense of, and I'm not coming in here with a prescriptive thought on this because I hadn't thought it through deeper in a definition way. But I mean, that to me, a warrior is someone who's going to fight for their village or fight for their family or fight, stand up against forces that are trying to enact some heavy oppression, and that might be physical, it might be restrictions, and so the act of warring, I guess, might be the root of being a warrior, is resisting the oppression, resisting the conflict that's being brought to your door. And so there's probably many flavors of what being a warrior is, or being willing to fight for what you believe in. But it sure stems from what's in your heart, and whether peace is the catalyst in your heart. Because if you're not seeking peace and resolution in your warriorship, you are just a violent person, essentially. You are just, and so, I don't think I've had this part of the conversation before, but again, I look at every conversation, somebody I'm sitting with is the one that's drawing something out of me, and you have this piece about you, and you've been dedicated to this walk for your whole life. And as you say, you're an introvert who probably only goes extroverted when you're called, or when you get into a role of leading your church, because that takes an extroversion. But then, hey, you can go back to your introverted kind of like self-management of energy and perspective
my
and
safe place.
your safe place, right? And
My resting place.
yeah. Well, and funny thing is, I think a lot of guys in the special operations world are also introverts. Uh, they have to work extrovertedly,
Right.
in a high output environment, and perform competitively in the training space, competing against themselves to prepare for things that are unknown at all times, and then thrust themselves into environments of extreme challenges that are often, you prepare for every outcome, and they're still going to be facing unknowns. So in that world, three descriptions always stuck out, or some of them are used as part of their recruiting, is like high speed adapter, high speed learner, and high tolerance for ambiguity, kind of thing. And so those are challenging things to introverts, but I think that's the overcoming part. And so with all of that kind of context, having a centered place, especially if it's biblical and scriptural, knowing what your core is, you've articulated it beautifully. Can't wait to go back and listen to this instead of just ask you over and over to keep repeating it. But it's that's the difference between there's another context of warriorship and this world, on this world of people that carry guns, people that carry weapons of impact, and sitting in this empty airport right now, but somewhat empty. And so that, I won't use any colorful stories here, but there is always some kind of person that is just delivering extreme destruction in those environments, and they don't have that core anchor. They don't have it. They're not. It's not a hearts and minds mission for some of them. It is a bloodlust kind of thing, and there's no place for that in the house of God, and standing up as a warrior, and so it is interesting. This conversation for me is bringing forth a lot more grounded realization that you completely embody of, because a lot of people use the wording, hey, and you said it yourself in a different way. It takes a dedication to the word to become a disciple. It takes a discipline to, I mean, that is, being a disciple is the core part of having discipline. And so, I wouldn't consider myself a disciple. I consider myself a believer, a wannabe disciple. And, I'm trying to use the skills I have to make an impact and affect people to think more and be willing to step forward in difficult situations. But